it does that, but it does. Every single week it does that. Oh, YouTube. Technology at its finest, I suppose. So, James Severin says, let's smack down some trolls, my friend. Oh, man, I'm a little burnt out on trolls for right now. I actually got in some hot water over my last troll video, so learned a lesson or two. Which I'm not going to get into, but Divinity Guitars and still pronouncing your screen name that way because I don't know any other way to pronounce it. So, but I'm glad you're here. Oh boy, how's everybody doing? Hanging in, doing okay, I hope. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, usually that disappears after a minute, but for some reason it still hasn't. Here, give that a second. See if that makes it go away. If it doesn't, then oops, with the wrong one. Christopher Bass just left a message, left a thing on there that YouTube blocked. It said Dr. Shit Troll. He can't hear us anymore. So, he is no longer with us. I had enough of him, and, it got to the point that dude was threatening me on Facebook and all kind. I mean, it got way out of control. So I blocked him on every which way I could think of. So he still got I know he still got other YouTube accounts that I haven't blocked yet that I'm sure we'll hear from, but. Here, eventually, once he gets mad that he can't comment on any of his regular accounts anymore, I'm sure he'll bring out the other ones. And I know that he has other ones because, me and other YouTube creators, we kind of talk. So let me see if I can fix that camera. Give that a second and see if all the stuff on the screen goes away. Usually it does after a minute or so. I don't know why it didn't this time, but sign into chat. Why does OBS ask me to sign in? Oh well. That's Fear 6 says, what do you think about the EVH brands of guitars getting more expensive now that Eddie's dead? I think that's pretty typical anytime that happens with a celebrity death, especially somebody the caliber of Eddie Van Halen. What you got to think about with Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen was not just a great world-class guitar player. Everybody knew who Eddie Van Halen was, whether you're a guitar player or a musician or not. My mom knows who Eddie Van Halen is. My mom loves Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen's celebrity status was pretty far up there. Eddie Van Halen showed up on like Ellen DeGeneres. and other talk shows like that. Misha Mansour is not showing up on Ellen DeGeneres, right? Nothing against Misha Mansour. Misha Mansour is great too, but he's nowhere near as famous as Eddie Van Halen was. So, whenever somebody that is that famous and that popular and that widely loved and respected dies, anything with any kind of provenance to them or their legacy skyrockets on the used market, and that's when everybody decides to. That's when you got the douchebags of the world out there that decide to capitalize on somebody else's death, and try and make a few bucks off of it, a few extra bucks than they would normally. So, it's unfortunate that some people do that, but what you'll see, and it may take a year or two, but it'll calm back down, and then prices will start to come back down a little bit closer to where they were before. So, in which case, the used stuff on the used market or on the new market is going to be a lot more. It's going to increase sales for Fender and EVH on the new EVH gear. So. Which is good for those companies so that they can keep building us more. So, Texas OU is going on right now. Of course, I follow the NFL religiously, but I have never been able to get into college football, and I'm from Texas. So. So you can, man, keep us posted on that game anyway, just because that is a rivalry I'm fairly interested in. I grew up in Texas, and just about all of my family, particularly on my mom's side, all graduated from OU. My dad graduated from OSU, so he had that rivalry with everybody else. But and my sister and I were both born in Texas, so we sided with the UT side of that rivalry when it came time for this game every year. But pardon me. Christopher Bass, first one to crack open the super chat this morning. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Says thanks for hosting the chat, and I'm happy to do so. Christopher Bass says, I'm happy I have no use for a non-recessed Floyd. I don't know. I guess I'm not too picky about whether or not Floyd's recessed or not. Most of the guitars that I own that have Floyds on them, it's a recessed Floyd, except for my Kramer. My Kramer Focus 1000 from 1984 has a non-recessed Floyd on it. So, I mean, you need to use that guitar for a video sometime soon. Christopher Bass says, I painted my NATO Jackson Krylon yellow a month or so ago, so in the spirit of Eddie, what is cool is the yellow will wear off, and I painted it flat black underneath. Should relic nicely. Yep, with that, I don't know. I've never finished my own guitar, but you guys know that's not the kind of thing that I have any interest in. But it sounds cool. I was talking at a forum the other day, and somebody posted a picture of a headstock that, with a Floyd Rose, or locking tremolo of some kind on it. I think it was a Jackson guitar that had the ball ends on, like real tight up against the tuning posts. So, in other words, they feed the strings in through the tuning machine, which is, I do that too. But they don't clip the ball ends off, and they just tighten them until the ball ends go all the way up against the tuning post. And and I said, yeah, that's how inexperienced people do it. Well, some dude responds back, and I think he was in another country somewhere, but he responds back, says, I've been doing it this way for 20 years, and, and so, it turns out, the guys, you say, here's my latest build, and, he posts a picture of an Ibanez gem with a neck on it from a RG, a $400 RG4 EX1, I think it was, a repainted gem, and it's I've been building these things for years. I had to laugh. Oh boy. I've been building things out of my own shop for 20 years. His own shop is your own basement, dude. How you been other than that? I've been okay. Eddie's passing hit me a little harder than I guess, I wasn't expecting it, like, just like anybody else wasn't. So, it kind of hit me a little harder than anybody, than I expected it to. But, it's okay. I'll be fine. We'll all be fine. We've got, plenty of Eddie Van Halen memories to pull from. For the remainder, his legacy is well cemented into that of history. So yeah, but it's still kind of hard to believe that he's gone now, So, but beyond that, I'm doing okay. Been fairly kind of a busy week at work, and but I was able to get my YouTube videos recorded and actually edited way ahead of schedule. So. I've got all kinds of free time this weekend, so I'm going to get the water hose out and water my flowers for, we still haven't had any damn rain here in central Indiana for the last couple of weeks or so, like we usually do this time of year, so, if my garden's going to hibernate for the winter, I would prefer it, do it the right way and not just wither away. So I'm going to go water some stuff outside and cut the grass probably one last time for the season. And maybe throw some burgers on the grill and here a little bit later on and just kind of hang out and relax the rest of the day. Maybe finish my Final Fantasy VII remake that I've been playing the last few weeks. S-Fear6 says, because I was thinking of keeping my EVH guitar and amp for it to raise its value in the coming years. I don't know which amp and guitar you have, but they're always going to be worth money. But if you're wanting to do what everybody else is doing, you're wanting to get 4 times what it's actually worth, and now's the time to sell it, because it's not, they're not going to stay. Prices on used EVH gear is not going to stay where it is forever, And the other thing to consider, the stuff that really, really seems to be bringing the stupid money right now is the early stuff. The early Music Man Wolfgangs that, those may stay. Like they weren't calling them Wolfgangs, but the Axis guitars, which was really the first one of those in the PV Wolfgangs, and though the prices on those may stay high, but because they're not being made anymore, but everything else is probably going to come down. The PV block letter, PV 5150s. I saw somebody. There's an eBay auction for one of those that's up right now. As of yesterday, it was up over like $2,200 for a block letter 5150. So. Timbuktu is here. GoobTuber Randall Vandergriff says, I played the Mitchell guitars single cuts. I touched the new ones. I want them all but the black. Quality for very little money. Yeah, those Mitchell guitars actually are pretty nice, believe it or not. And when they first came out, I was really thinking about buying a couple of them for myself. And it was one of those things I just never got around to it. And You know, and I've gone back and thought about it a few times, and I just never did. But um, you know, the one thing I didn't, you know, that I really didn't like on, you know, the necks on a lot of those guitars are a lot fatter than what I'm used to. So if there's anything that was turning me off from them, that's what it was. There's a great screen name. Okay. This is a screen name, but he seems like a pretty good person, or dude, or lady. I guess I don't know, but has greeted everyone. Says hello, Robert, and everyone. Then he greeted Christopher separately. So apparently he seems to like Christopher Bass. Jack Collins is here. Says hello from Louisiana. Morning to you. Or I guess it's afternoon, but I mean, realistically, we started this. You know, I sat down to start working on this. You know, to start getting everything turned on here at about 1:15, and I'd only been up for about 15 minutes at that point. I slept a lot later than I intended to today, which I really wasn't up that late last night, but. I don't know. Elijah Frost says, "Hey Robert, what are your thoughts on the neural DSP stuff? Any plans to review or test it?" No, you know that kind of lands into that, you know that digital processor side stuff that that I'm the wrong guy for that. You know, everybody, especially at this point, everybody knows I have no interest in most digital processors. You know, you know, I did have somebody reach out to me to demo, you know, and ask me if I'd demo a small one here recently, and I did agree to that. So, you know, I haven't seen it show up yet, but you know, so you guys will see that. I'm not gonna give out any more details than that because, like I said, it hasn't shown up yet, and I don't, you know, they could have changed their mind. But, yeah, I mean, effects processors are just, you know, for the most part, they're just not for me. So. Nothing negative to say about any of them, but they're just not my thing. So, you know, and as far as like, you know, their plug-in stuff, you know, I would be open to demoing some of the, you know, some of their plug-in stuff. But the problem is anytime I demo anything recording related on my channel, you guys have no interest whatsoever, be it microphones or software plugins, whatever it is. So. I even demoed Fluff's signature ML. What's the name of that company? ML Sound or something like that. You know, whatever his signature amp plugin suite is. I even demoed that, and you guys, you know, barely any of you saw it. So, no, you guys have said loud and clear you have no interest in any recording gear demos from me. So, you know, which is fine. You know, I'm not. You know, that's perfectly fine. But, you know, I don't want to put a bunch of effort into making something like that if nobody has any interest in watching it. So, pardon me. Jeff Seven says someone gave me a guitar with a Floyd Rose Super 6 on it. It's strange. What is a Super 6? I don't know what a Super 6 is. I'll have to look that up. Let's do that now while I'm thinking about it. Floyd Rose Super 6. Floyd Rose Special, FRX, Fast Loader. I don't see anything specifically called a Super 6. That must be a nickname I'm not familiar with for one of them. Oh well, no big deal. Vinny Guitar says I have a Kramer Vanguard and used to have a Kramer Striker. I was too young for a Floyd. Will buy one next time. Is that the spaceship looking one? I think I made fun of. If it is, I think I made fun of that in a video a few months ago. It is cool looking, and I wouldn't even be opposed to owning it. But man, is it weird. If that's the one I'm thinking of. Well, back to Google. Kramer Vanguard. No, that's the V model. Okay. Yeah, the one I was thinking of looks like it came straight out of a Star Trek movie. Yeah, okay. The Vanguard is their V design. So yeah, I like my Floyds I like my Kramers with Floyds as well. So I like Floyds. I don't want one on every guitar that I own though. Some guitars that are just stop tails or string through body or whatever, no tremolo system. It's nice to be able to drop them into a different tuning on the fly instead of dropping everything and having to reset up everything specifically just to go for a different tuning. So. Okay, says I got lucky and bought his shoes, the Frankenstein, and his 78 photo, still new in a box. Now I guess I will wear them. Does that sounds like I don't know if it was a memorabilia set of some kind, or I don't know. I don't know what that would have been, but it's cool. EVH, Eddie Van Halen is all the buzz right now, as he should be. Gooptuber says my first real guitar was a Focus 2000. I've got a Focus 1000, which is the single pickup. Just one humbucker and a volume knob is all that thing's got, and a Floyd. It's also actually, believe it or not, has a Brazilian rosewood fretboard, which a lot of people overlook that. But a friend of mine gave that to me, like, God, that had to be more than 20 years ago now. And, it was because he bought it back in the 80s, back in the 80s or late 80s, I guess, as what it was, which was a inexpensive studio model. That's what it was sold as, But back then, nobody knew that, Japanese-made guitars were going to be so highly valued and respected for their craftsmanship and quality, regardless of what brand name was on it. So, it was actually sold as a pretty inexpensive guitar. But now even before Eddie died, now those are, the values of those are starting to climb up a little bit more than they had been previously. So, and it is a good playing guitar. James Severin, dude, thank you so much for the super chat donation. Very, very much appreciated. So, thank all of you. Thank you to all of you for coming to hang out with me here on this. It's a pretty beautiful day here in central Indiana. I don't know what the weather's like around other parts of the world where you guys might be, but other parts of the country here are, have seen better days, but, there's still hurricane threats down south, and, I think they've, I think the fires out west have they've gained some control over that, but they're not completely gone. It's my understanding. Yeah, Christopher Bass, there you go, says it's flooding here on the Gulf Coast in Florida. Could you theoretically recess a Fender 6-point trim for more pull? That seems like the idea with the MM trims. That I have no idea, to be honest. That's a Neil Moser question right there. If there's anybody be able to answer that, it'd be Neil Moser or somebody with his skill set. Lord knows, I'm sure he's routed out plenty of plenty of Floyd routes in his day, and he's also a hell of a guy. So, but yeah, that I'm not sure. Kobe out says, Robert, do you have a preference between the Frankenstein, Axis, PV, or EVH? If you mean as far as which Eddie Van Halen guitar model was my favorite, as far as the design goes, I mean, I don't know, man. God, I mean, and again, I'd have to throw the Kramer in there too, because and again, I'm back and forth, because the Kramer model I think only had one pickup, and I would really like a neck pickup on there. So the Frankenstein looked like what it was. It was a guitar built in his garage, and it's certainly, and I'm not denying the fact that it's a legendary instrument these days, but at the time that he built it, when nobody knew who he was, come on, dude, that thing was a piece of shit guitar that he built himself. The Axis or the PV, between those two, I mean, those are both pretty cool. The Axis you never see. Never see that one. They only made it for 1 year. That was a 1 year deal, and he jumped ship and went to PV, and then PV started making the Wolfgangs. And the Wolfgangs I actually do really, really like. Some purists out there say there is a big difference between the PV Wolfgangs and the EVH Wolfgangs. I've played both, and they both feel pretty similar to me. So the electronics are definitely different in them, of course, but they both feel pretty similar to me. So, I mean, as far as which one would be my favorite Eddie Van Halen model, I would probably have to lean towards my Axis or PV, my Music Man or PV. My love for both of those brands. I don't know, the EVHs are cool too, but I have played a few clunkers, that have gotten, like some of the Japanese ones that had really sharp frets. I remember one time we got a batch of those. We got like 10 of them in from Van Halen was getting ready. They had matter of fact, they had just started their tour, and Indianapolis was like we were like the second or third stop on the tour. It was early, and it was so they shipped us a ton of EVH guitars. They didn't send us, they were all the Japanese ones, so they were all in the $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 range. They didn't send us any of the expensive $3,000 ones, which would have been a lot harder for us to sell, but they wanted us to have them for when EVH came to town, because they knew that when that happened, everybody was going to want to buy EVH guitars, and they did. So it took us a few months to get rid of most of them, but when we finally did, long story short, David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen had their latest tiff that year, and they decided they both remembered why they couldn't stand each other and canceled the tour like 2 weeks in. So at least we got our show. But so to answer your question, which I have not, answer your question, which Eddie Van Halen style guitar would be my absolute favorite? If I were going to pick one, honestly, it would probably be the Ibanez Destroyer. Ooh, Christopher Bass says it's flooding on the Gulf Coast. No bueno. Stay safe, dude. Stay safe. Stay on this side of the water line. I hope it doesn't do too much damage down there. That's probably the one thing that keeps me from, that keeps me from moving to Florida, is beautiful weather most of the time, but it is awfully dangerous this time of year. But then again, up here you got blizzards that kill people too. So Jeff Evans says 6 mounting holes like a Strat, double rollers, non-locking with fine tuners. Okay. He's referring to the Super 6. Is that what it was called? The Super 6 trim that somebody mentioned earlier. Okay. Yeah, those I'm familiar. Those are like a little bit more like a Kaler. So Gibson had actually, they did a run of guitars there several years back called the Tribal series. guitars. I think it was an Explorer and a Flying V, and I think it was the only two models, but they both came with Kaler tremlos on them. That style of Kaler tremolo, and locking tuners, but no locking nut. But they stayed in tune. They were cool. I kind of wanted one at the time that they were out, but didn't have the money for them at the time. Should have bought one then, because those things are probably selling on the used market about as much as they were used, when I could have gotten them with my employee discount at the time. Todd Monroe says, what inspired you to start playing guitar? It was a combination either of, between, there's really two inspirations. The first one, the one that I talk about a lot more often, is a good friend of mine that I grew up with, and we're still friends today, was really, really into Metallica back in the 80s, and he gave me a copy of, he gave me 3 copies, and this is back when, cassette tapes, and, it was, somebody needed a copy of something, you just dubbed them on, dubbed it for him on a blank tape, and off he went. Without the copyright police getting all crazy about everything. So, but he gave me copies of Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and most importantly, Injustice for All, which had all just come out. They had that which had recently come out at that time, and I was listening on my Walkman. I was listening to all 3 of those in succession, nonstop. Every front to back, no no stops and fast forwarding through songs or anything like that. I listened to every song on every one of those records over and over again on the bus to and from school every single day, every chance that I got. And that's when I fell in love with James Hetfield and Metallica, and decided that I wanted to be like him. But prior to that, what I had done was, my dad was actually a guitar player when he was younger, and more so than anything, the reason why I wanted to play guitar was, because I wanted to be like my dad. And he was, he was an acoustic player. He had a 1952 Martin D18, and that's the story of that guitar is a separate one that I'll save for another day, because it still kills me to tell it. But but he played. He was more of like a folk guitar player when he was growing up. I wanted to be a rock guitar player, but I wanted to be a guitar player because my dad was a guitar player. So, and here we are. Terrence Fleming says Kramer Voyager. That may have been it. I can't remember which. Let me see. Let me go back to the Googles. Well, move out of the way, OBS. Let's go back to the Googles for a minute. Nope, that was the Explorer-ish model. What was that thing called? The Triax. That was it. The Triax. They had a model called the Triax and one called the Enterprise. Enterprise with a Z. Here, I'll share my screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Was that it? Yeah. These dudes. Like I said, that Triax looks like something straight out of a Star Trek movie. And the Enterprise isn't too far off from that either. That Enterprise has got that weird thing that connects the body to the headstock underneath the neck. Oh, man, those are weird. Those are really, really weird. But I want one. I want one of each, actually. I don't know where in the hell I'd play them, but I want one. Alrighty, and now we're back. Cougars and Kramer Batleth, yeah. Yes, it looks like a Batleth. The Enterprise one looks like a Batleth. Let's see. Decky69 is here. It says rainy in the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to you. Good morning. It actually is still morning out there, I believe. What the hell is this? Whatever. Well, a lot of you guys are saying it's raining. Maybe I should check my forecast here to make sure I'm not getting ready to water my gardens later on for nothing. Maybe we'll finally get lucky. Christopher Bass says, I don't understand that supposedly there are Squires that were $100 made by Ibanez, but Squire had a horrible reputation at the time. I'm not familiar. I don't know anything about that. There were Squires that were made in Japan back in the late 70s, early 80s. When Fender first started, Squire they were a string company. When Fender bought them out in like the 60s or something, and then they decided to take the brand name and turn it into more of an affordable line of guitars compared to their higher end American made and Japanese stuff. So they actually started out as Japanese made guitars, and those guitars are actually pretty desirable. They're not worth a whole lot. You can buy them for $400 or so on the used market. I guess that would be the vintage market, but they're not worth a ton, but there's a lot of people out there that want them. So when they pop up, they're gone almost immediately. Then they moved production on those to Korea for a few years after that, and those aren't quite as desirable, but they're still pretty easy to get rid of if you got one for sale. And then after that, that's when they started making everything in China and Indonesia and stuff like that. And that's when when the reputation started to go downhill. But I'm not familiar with any Squires that were made by Ibanez. Epic Esquire says, have you ever bought a guitar from overseas? My guitar is stuck in UPS hell, sitting in a warehouse in Philly waiting on some tax ID from shipper. Yeah, I have, and it can be frustrating. It can definitely be, I bought one that one came from China. It was years ago. It's the only one that this has ever happened with, though. But, it got stuck in customs for some reason, and I actually had to go and pay the duty fees to get it out, which was, it wasn't that expensive of a guitar. It was like, $300 or something like that. So I was pretty pissed when I had to go, pay another $60 or whatever it was. I think it was like 40. I think it was like $45 in duty fees, just to get them to release the damn thing. And then finally I received it and opened it up, pulled it out of the box, and it was packaged in styrofoam, like a big styrofoam block inside the box. So I got styrofoam everywhere, pulled it out of the box, and I hated it almost immediately, and I sold it the next day. So. Brandon Elton says, hey Rob, nope, not finishing the rest of that comment. Nope, either call me by my name or don't. Dave Escobar says, hey Robert, how goes dude? Doing good, sir. William De Silva's here. Nothing personal against whoever, called me Rob, but, I'm assuming you're new here. And we don't do that. Christopher Bass says, did you ever buy a guitar with mediocre stock import pickups and they were just too good to replace? I feel like the cheap DMT pickups from the Dean and the Vendetta. Nobody talks about this, but import pickups, inexpensive import pickups have come a long way in probably just the last 10 years. Even, there for a while, Epiphone pickups were, for example, they were hit or miss more than anything, more miss than anything, because they sounded so muddy. There were import versions of 57 Classics, the vast majority of them, but they sounded really, really muddy a lot of the time. And then they made some improvements to them, and now actually the Epiphone pickups are all sounding pretty good these days. A lot of, even like the stuff that's the proprietary stuff that's in the more inexpensive, like the Schecter Diamond pickups, it sound a lot better than they used to. What was the other one I was thinking of recently? Chapman, yeah. That Chapman ML1 traditional that I just got. Those are proprietary pickup as well. I don't know if those are. I'll be honest, I don't know if those are import or if they make those, somehow inexpensively in the UK or whatever. But wherever it is that they're assembled, I'm assuming they're imports. But they sound pretty good, man. I mean, I've got no intention of changing them. So, to answer your question, yeah, I didn't used to. It used to be if I bought a guitar and it had import pickups in it, that was the first thing to go. But the way that so many companies now are building such high quality instruments at such low prices. Number one, makes me wonder how much Fender and Gibson have been ripping us off for decades now. And number two, they're making such great, like I said, they're making such great quality guitars these days. I mean, you don't really. It's a lot easier to find a guitar in a specific price range that has most or all of the features that I'm looking for. Again, enter my Chapman ML1 traditional that I demoed last week. Fantastic guitar. Even had some features on it I didn't know I was looking for. Where was I? William Silva says, I accidentally bought a Trimbucker for a fixed bridge guitar. Would it be a mistake to put it in anyway, or maybe you still work fine? I don't. It should work fine. It depends on the guitar, but I mean, unless it's something with a really, really narrow bridge, some weird vintage thing. I mean, you should be fine. Yeah, I mean, especially if it's a humbucker. I mean, as long as it's like not a Fender Strat or something like that, I would think you'd be just fine. So it's not gonna hurt anything. Worst case, and you can always change that again later if you still don't like it. So. Christopher Bass says, yes, basically every imported guitar uses F spacing on the bridge. So I didn't know that, but there you go. Texas OU tied at 17-17 at the half. Hook 'em horns. And there's Zoe going crazy again over nothing. James Thorley says, have you seen the new Fender Hype Beast? I've fallen in love with the look of it. I have not. Zoe? Fender Hype Beast. What is this thing? Weird. No, not weird, but Is it Tom Morello Strat? I know they came out with a Tom Morello Strat this year. I see a picture of him. Well, it doesn't look exactly like his guitar, but that's pretty cool. Was that an ebony fretboard too? That blue looking thing. What do we got? Hype Beast. Is this Fender's website? Nope. Yeah, it is. Okay. Looks like an ebony fretboard, and huh, that is pretty sharp. It's very sharp, actually. Made in Japan. Ought to be relatively affordable. Although the last couple of, there's been a few of those okay, Fender Strat price is $1,600 US. And available exclusively in limited quantities on Fender's official website in Japan. Okay, cool. It's gonna be available over here. Sweet. There's, they did a telly or something here recently. Pardon me. They did a telly or something here recently that was a. Had something to do with a. Cartoon character, Japanese, what do they call that? Japanese cartoon stuff. Amal, whatever it is. I don't know what it was, but it had that kind of a theme to it that was only available in Japan, so that was my concern. But it looks like that one's going to be available in the U.S. when they release it. It's pretty ssharp looking. I got a feeling that one's going to be hard to get for a while after it does come out. Sean Wise, Cubs fan 1, dropped a comment in the super chat earlier, and I saw it when it came through, and I got distracted and forgot to scroll down and read it. So my apologies. But he says, "Hi Robert, thoughts on a Super Distortion 36th anniversary PAF combo and a Les Paul? Just got a DSL 40CR for $500 to use the other day." Yeah, I mean that's like the Super Distortion PAF is like one of those classic pickup combinations. So Zoe. It's one of those classic pickup combinations. It's kind of like the JB and the Jazz, except, really the Super Distortion anyway has been around even longer. So, yeah, it's I know that that pickup combination actually is really popular for people like that one on Les Pauls. I know the the Epiphone Ace Frehley signature Les Paul, the 3 pickup one that came out about, what was that, 2012, 13 or something like that. That one actually had a Super Distortion in the neck, and then the bridge had a Super Distortion in the bridge, and the middle and the neck pickups, because it was a 3 pickup Les Paul. The middle and the neck pickups were actually DiMarzio PAFs. So, I think it's a great sounding pickup set. And those Marshall new DSLs are certainly killer sounding amps, man. You could do a lot worse than that. And Zoe's down here. Come on. Come here. All right. She didn't want to. She'd rather lick my foot instead. Okay. All right. You calm down. Do you see somebody walking their dog outside or something like that? She goes ballistic when somebody walks by the house and they're walking the dog. Let's see. Where was I? Ian Nunez says, "Any new gear out there interesting you want?" Oh, there's always gear that I want. There's. God, I mean, I could probably name 5 or 6 guitars that I would like to have right now. That doesn't include the Gibson Les Paul Custom that I've always wanted and never been able to afford. I've thought about actually selling a few of my more inexpensive guitars that I don't play very much, and scrounging together some cash, and seeing if I do have some, a few bucks saved up already. So I have thought about selling off all those things and then buying the custom, but I'm not sure that I want to do that yet. So I kind of just like want to buy it outright without sacrificing something else to get it. In which case, I'm about a third of I got about a third of the money saved up from where I need to be to buy one. So at any rate, boy, I don't know. Let's see. There's that. I bought a lot of, I bought a fair amount of gear lately. I mean, this microphone actually was pretty high on my wish list there for a while, and I finally got that. I could use a couple more of them, but having the one is a lot better than having the zero. So there's that. There's a couple of amps that I've been looking at. There's a few Schecter guitars that had my attention. I got the Strat guitar that I wanted, so. But there's a few Schecters that I like. There's a few BC Rich guitars that I like. But nothing that I just gotta have right now. So no. I mean, God knows I got enough pedals to last me for a while. So yeah, I don't know. There's I've been fortunate. A few companies have sent me some gear to demo recently. So I got some things to show you guys and videos coming up. But I don't know. There's really nothing for first time in a long time. There's really not anything out there right this second that I just gotta have. If I ran across a price on a Blue Voodoo, a good price on a Blue Voodoo head, I'd buy it right now. That's Blue Voodoo or a Marshall Mode 4. I would buy one of those right now if I ran across one for sale for a fair enough price. But I'm not overpaying for either one of them, and I'm not right now. I don't need them, so so I don't need them. So I would buy one of those two items, one of those two amp heads for a good price if they made their way in front of my eyes. But I can't really think of anything else that I would drop the money on. I'd drop a hat right at the moment. So, pardon me. Decky69 says, saw Van Halen with David Lee Roth April 5th, 1984. Cobo Hall in Detroit. That would have been a great show, man. That would have been a killer show. I'm only about 4 hours from Detroit, but I've actually never been there. Pardon me. Mikey Gabbard says, y'all got to check out the Ranger Effects Mini Bar. It's a distortion pedal that you put different liquids into and get different tones. Timbuk2 says, I want to string through on my future axe purchase. Like I said, it's nice to have, man. When I turn around and... Okay, this isn't the guitar that I thought I had behind me, but it'll work. Pick this thing up. It's real nice to just be able to just grab, if it's not the right tuning, just put it there where I need it to be, and be done with it. Now, this one doesn't have... no guitar. I mean, this is a baritone, so I mean, I can't put this thing in, from B to standard E, and without having to make some adjustments. But I can certainly go from B to drop A, without having to adjust anything, and be just fine. So, which is what it did this week. Dave Escobar says, Robert, do you have a favorite reverb pedal? I'm gonna be honest, man. My favorite reverb is usually a tank reverb on an amplifier somewhere. um, with if I have never really been, gotten too into reverb pedals that much because, um, like with my, like when my Blue Voodoo, when I had my Blue Voodoo that I've been kicking myself for selling ever since. That thing had a great sounding reverb on it that was not too over the top and was just perfect. It was just, that was just the kind of reverb sound that I always liked. And, so I've really never, I can't think of any amps. There might be maybe a few, but for the most part, I can't think of too many amps that I've had since then that don't have reverb on it. And even then, I don't use reverb recording very often anymore, unless I'm specifically recording a reverb tone. So that said, favorite reverb pedal will probably be the Digitech Polara reverb. I demoed the one, and I'm a little biased because I demoed that pedal on my channel probably about a year and a half ago, and what I think anyway was one of the coolest tracks that I ever recorded was with that pedal in that video. So, I really like that. I really like that pedal a lot. Believe it or not, the Joyo, the Atmosphere, which is a $89 reverb pedal, does a lot of the same things that the Polara does, and really, really cool. Sounds really good, but it also does some things that the Polara doesn't do. So that's a good one too. The MXR M300 reverb is fantastic. The Boss RV6 and even the older RV5 digital reverb are both great reverbs. And let's see. The TC Electronic, Hall of Fame stuff is, I don't know that's quite hit legendary status yet, but they sure have sold a shitload of those units, and they're now on their second generation. God, they just came out with the Hall of Fame 2X4, which is the second generation, but the big 4-button, the big 4-switch thing that came out earlier this year. I mean, that thing's gigantic, but if you want a reverb sound, it's in there. Pardon me. So, but yeah, if I were going to be building myself a pedal board right now to start gigging with, of everything that I have here, in my possession, I would probably just grab that Joyo reverb, to be honest, or the I've got a Line 6 Tone Core series Verbzilla that's pretty cool, but that thing's big and bulky and it takes up a lot of juice. So for everything that I have here, I would probably just grab the Joyo. If I were going to buy something, I would probably get a Digitech Polara. So Christopher Bass says lipstick tubes. Yeah, I actually kind of like lipstick pickups, believe it or not. One of the coolest sounding Strats I ever heard actually was had 3 lipstick. Somebody had modified it, but and I don't know what brand pickups they were, but they modified it, had 3 lipstick pickups in it, and it had a really, really cool type of sound to it. Spanky, quacky kind of thing that the way what this dude was playing through it anyway, and he wasn't playing surf music, by the way. Because of course lipstick pickups are really well known to be good for surf music, which they are. This guy was playing some rock riffs with it that I thought sounded pretty cool. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I have, I would, if I were to build, I don't know about that, but if I were, I have always kind of wanted a Strat with 3 lipstick pickups in it. I think it was Billy Corgan that did that. I've never exactly been a big Billy Corgan fan, but he would be the reason I did that. DJS Guitars 21 says looking for an EVH guitar with a Floyd under $1,000. Any recommendations? Yeah, what is it? The Stripe series? I think the EVH Stripe series, if they're still around anyway. Those are like around in the $900 range, I believe. That's not what I want. There we go. EVH. Yeah, Stripe Series. They got one model anyway for $8.99. They've gone up in price since they came out. I remember when they first came out, they were all about $8.99. Now there's, they got one $8.99 model, and a few of the others seem to get up around, they've got one called the Frankie that's $16.99, which is, I don't know that you'd be getting much different than the $8.99 model as far as features go. Looks different, but so yeah, that's probably what I would do, man. That is probably what I would do. Next model up is $13.99, unless you're a lefty. But you can get the $8.99 model in the red and black and white scheme, the black and white scheme, or the yellow and black scheme. It may take a while to get them right now because all the again, anything EVH, especially if it's if it's affordable, anything Eddie Van Halen related is real hard to get a hold of right now. And Guitar Center sold out of those immediately, I noticed. So yeah, that's what I would do, man. Good luck. I hope you find something. Brandon Elton says, didn't mean to offend. My apologies, Robert. No offense, dude. No sweat. No offense taken. I just refuse to answer to anything other than my name. And, I have some personal reasons behind why I do that I'm not going to share, but those reasons are there. So, Orville Farley says, being called Rob isn't so bad, bro. At least you didn't get stuck with Orville. You could have been the popcorn kid. I don't see anything wrong with the name Orville myself. Matter of fact, there's a guy here in town named Orville who is a very, locally anyway, is known as a really, really good guitar player. So, nothing wrong with that name at all. My dislike for being called anything but Robert, particularly Rob, doesn't have anything to do with guitars or anything like that. And it's something that is very, very personal to me, and I refuse to bend on. And if you don't agree with it, you're welcome. You are welcome to do that, but don't expect me to change my mind. So, Ryan13 says, love your channel, keep up the good work. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, man. I'm glad you are enjoying it. Enjoying be it the content or, well, I guess that's what it would be that you're enjoying. So, pardon me. George Ramirez, or Jorge Ramirez, I guess depending on how you choose to pronounce it, says I picked up a Schecter Sun Valley shredder. With what upgrades do you recommend? None. If somebody handed me a stock Sun Valley Super Shredder, I wouldn't touch it. I demoed one of those on my channel a couple, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, about almost 3 years ago now, I guess. And I had it wasn't mine; it belonged to a friend of mine. And he since sold it when he went to sell it. I couldn't afford it at the time, so I was kind of pissed. But But he had one of the ones with the Sustainiac in the neck, and so it's fully loaded as it got, and that was a killer guitar. Killer guitar. I wouldn't touch it. Right, I would, like I said, somebody handed me one of those right out of the box, brand new. I wouldn't change a thing except the strings. I just pre-ordered a vintage brand V100. It's the 25th anniversary Silverburst. They're only making 100 worldwide. Those are good guitars, man. Those vintage brand guitars, they're not real high. They're not a real high profile brand at all. A lot of people don't even know about them, but they're really good guitars. I mean, like they're as nice as the Agiles. Like I said, a lot of people don't know about them, but they're killer. I wouldn't mind having one of those. I like their Les Paul models. Ian says, forgot to say hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and Robert. What's up, dude? Dave Escobar says, just bought a Mint Kramer SM1. Maximum steel, metallic, dark gray. Duncan saved a lot buying used. Yeah, there's the used gear market is the way to go in a lot of things. I mean, I'm, a lot of people, matter of fact, most people don't have, really good, like, artist discounts on gear to be able to buy new whenever they want. So, that's what the used market's for. I've scored some pretty good deals on guitars and amps and stuff on the used market, So, the key is to find somebody that's somebody that's actually realistic about what they have to sell, and not somebody that's jacking the price up and thinks it's worth more than it is just because it's theirs. So because there's plenty of those people out there. But you also got to know how it works. Somebody I saw somebody post in a Facebook group yesterday, and he was talking about how people jack up the prices on Reverb, which is not untrue at all. That's been a complaint of mine about Reverb for a long time, is people just, everybody sells, everybody asking prices on Reverb are just way, way too high most of the time. But there was a DoD death metal, Lamb Series death metal distortion pedal. Somebody was, had it priced at like $180, and that's the one that he was laughing about. And, and I told him, I said, nah, if this were a year and a half ago, you'd be absolutely right. However, ever since Josh Scott did that video on the DoD Lamb Series, the prices of all of those pedals skyrocketed, including the death metal, and that's about what those things go for. So, right now, anyway. Well, are they going to stay there? I don't know. I mean, they've been there for a while now. 6 or 8 months. They may come back down eventually, but all of those Lamb Series pedals, the Corrosion is the one that I want, and you can't find it anywhere. And I got a feeling if I do find one, somebody's going to be asking $300 for it. Douglas Gagne says ESP ? What about them? Christopher Bass says, I would get a 4-channel JVM if price is no object. Right now, I don't think anything beats that. I want the combo, but 3,000 steep. I love the JVMs, man. The 210 was always my favorite. I mean, the 4-channel one was just because each one of those channels has like 3 modes and 2 something. I mean, it's even a 2-channel amp is like having a 14-channel amp or something ridiculous. So that was just plenty for me. I don't know what I would do with a 4-channel. That's just it was way too much for me. But regardless, I've always loved the JVMs ever since the first time I heard one. I've always loved the JVMs. So I would really like to have one of those myself. I also really want one of the new Studio Series JCM 800s. The little 20 watt, the 20 watt guys, I think they are. Little 20 watt JCM 800 head. Those are awesome. I would really, really enjoy having one of those. So Marshall, if you're seeing this, if you want to send out an amp that you know would be seeing a lot of videos on YouTube, I'm listening. DJ S Guitars 21 says, speaking of Marshalls, says looking to get a 100 Marshall head with an effects loop. What do you recommend? If 100 as an 100 watt head, honestly the biggest if you're ignoring the price tag, I'd go JCM 800. Well, no, I won't. The new ones, if you're talking new. If you're talking new and you don't care about the price tag, I would probably go. I'd probably go JVM, to be honest. I'd probably go 210. I like the new JCM 800s are good too, but I'd have to sit down and hear one again. There's a lot of people complain that the JCM 800 reissues that are out these days are a little brittle and a little bit trebly on the top end. So, but it's been a while now since I've heard one, so I don't know how accurate that is or not. And honestly, you could probably find a vintage one cheaper, and you could buy a new one for these days anyway. The new Jubilee heads, that'd be an option too. Those new Jubilee, the current, the Jubilee reissues that are out, those are great sounding amps. And, of course, Plexis are classics. They've got effects loops in them now. All the Marshalls these days have effects loops. If you don't want to spend that much money, the 50-watt Origin head, it's not 100 watt, but it's 50 watts, which is plenty loud. And if you can tell, really, if you play loud enough that you can tell a serious, that you need the whatever nominal difference in volume there is between a 50-watt and 100-watt head, hats off to you, because you're playing much bigger gigs than the rest of us, most of the rest of us anyway. But there's a 50-watt Origin head that sounds, basically, it's an import Plexi that was designed to take pedals. So it's designed to be a good pedal platform, and they're really, really affordable too. And the DSL 100s, the new version of the DSL heads, as I've said over and over again, sound great. So, all depends on how much you want to spend, but sorry for the long-winded answer, by the way. I love Marshalls. I tend to get a little carried away when it comes to talking about Marshalls. Hey, Gnarly says, what's the worst guitar you ever seen besides the reverse flying V? They don't get any worse than that, dude. Worst guitar I've ever seen. Seen or played? Seen? Seen definitely would be the Wancaster. I don't know who. I read recently that it was Ed Roman that built that guitar. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the one that's shaped like a great big giant penis. Literally, just look up Wancaster, you'll find it. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. Worst one I've ever played. I get lambasted on my worst production guitars video that I did a few years ago. I still get lambasted over the VW Garage Master guitar that was in that I mentioned in that video, because the one, I've played a few of them. They've all been the shittiest playing guitars I've ever gotten my hands on, and sound terrible. And there was nothing redeemable. They weigh about 4 pounds maybe. There's absolutely nothing redeemable about any of them that I've ever played. And there's people that just absolutely love that guitar, and and I'm sure a lot of it is just purchase validation that the reason why they hate me, but or because I'm not validating their purchase. But there is a cult following behind that guitar for some reason, and I will never be able to get on board with that, because those things were pretty seriously garbage guitars. They were made cheap guitars they were made to be given away. I mean, it's not like they were meant to be on par with a USA custom shop something or other. So Doug Gone M1 question mark. a little bit further up, and she says ESP. So I'm assuming you're asking me about an ESP M1. I don't know what you're asking me though. Sorry. Yes, the ESP M1 exists. Dave Escobar says, if you see the Mode 4 with the cab, at least buy the cab. Cab is amazing. Yeah, I know. I love the cab. I'm still kicking myself. There was a couple of months ago, somebody did point me in the direction of a Mode 4. This dude had one for sale, and he was willing to let it go for like $250 plus shipping, and I didn't do it. There was something else that I had to focus my money on at the time, and God, it was. I should have done it. I should have taken the risk, is what I should have done. Because everything turned out fine for me financially, but I should have taken the risk. But I didn't know that at the time. God, that kills me. Matt Maruzek says, if you want to come to Detroit and collaborate on a video, let me know. I'd be open to that, maybe. Depending on, of course, have to be a lot of planning goes into it, but I'd be certainly open to that. If you, I didn't realize you had a channel, but absolutely. MS Wins says, I found an old 85 Ibanez Roadmaster 2 in the back of my mom's closet. Bridge pickup was dead, so I replaced them all with hot rails. Ian Nunez says, I just bought a Sweetwater exclusive LTD C1000. Quilted maple top with the Floyd Rose. Violet shadow color. ESP does that, man. They make these exclusive finishes for all the big dealers. They've got Guitar Center exclusive, they've got Sam Ash exclusives, they've got Sweetwater exclusives, they've got Z-Sounds exclusives. That's their thing. Is we're going to make you an exclusive guitar, and it's an EC1000 with a finish, with a different finish. They're usually pretty cool looking finishes though. So hats off to ESP for that. Those finishes look sharp. Let's see. Ian Nunez says, Chapman guitar. I'm assuming you probably saw when I held up the one behind me. Yes, that was the first Chapman that I bought. That's not the one that I bought recently. I guess it was. I bought that one a couple of months ago, and then the one behind me, the baritone, is the ML1 baritone, and then the single coil one that I demoed last week is the ML1 traditional that showed up. That came a couple weeks ago. I like them. I like them a lot, man. I didn't think I would like Chapman guitars that as well as I do, but they are. That's a company that's doing it right. There was a lot of. I heard a lot of people complaining about quality issues on their guitars, and apparently they heard it too because they did something about it and they changed factories, and that new, which is what the V2 signifies in their current product line. So the V2 means that it's the second generation because it's all the stuff that's being built out of the new factory, and it's being built out of a factory in Indonesia that is very, very well known for their quality and consistency. And both the Chapmans that I have bought are top-notch guitars. The traditional that I bought was an open box model. Whatever Yahoo had that one before me had no idea how to set up a guitar. So I did have to put some work into that one, but that wasn't Chapman's fault. And and I did get that one set up playing just fine. So yeah, no, I'm on board, man. I'm a believer in Chapman now. Joey Van Ostrand's here says, want to hear the definition of stupid? I bought 2 more Bluebirds. Fireflies. I sold the last one for double what I paid, so if one of them is not a keeper, lightning strikes twice. Joey has been telling us about his escapades on in these live streams for the last couple of weeks about his woes with these Firefly guitars. And it could have been any more than a week ago that you were just saying that you're never buying another one again, and now you're telling me you bought 2 more. That's not the definition of stupid. That's the definition of insanity. But I guess now we'll after those show up, now we'll know. If the one you got was just a lemon, or, if, the lousy quality of the first one is a little bit more common than we may have heard. Barry Sample says, what do you think of D'Angelico solid bodies? I haven't played them yet. They look cool. Not quite my thing. I'm not really much of an offset indie rock kind of guy, which is kind of what those are geared towards, but they do look cool. Like I said, I don't know, I haven't got my hands on one yet. Mikey Gabber says recently got a D'Angelico Premier Teardrop, and I love it. So there you go. You got one vote. GoopTuber says any Strat trim can be made to stay in tune if the nut is cut right and the tuners are stable. I suppose that's true. And I've also seen the opposite. If you guys remember that, I still get people commenting on my video on the glary guitars, and matter of fact, I was having a exchange with somebody who commented here in this live stream here earlier in the chat. Todd something or other was his name. See if I can find him again. Todd Monroe, who commented earlier in this particular thread. But he commented on that video, and I still get people that, you guys saw in that video how fast and how easily that thing went out of tune. It was not an instance of the strings need to be stretched out like a lot of people want to say. So I can't get on board with, based on my experience, I can't get on board with those guitars, but hopefully somebody will be willing to put money into some higher end parts for it that'll make it a stable, good playing instrument one of these days. So that is true. Ian Nunez says Blue Voodoo Crate. Yes, the Crate Blue Voodoo is what I'm referring to. The Crate Blue Voodoo. So there was a head that popped up online during the week that, there was somebody just grabbed it. They didn't have any photos of it up yet. And somebody just grabbed it before. I wanted to wait and see some pictures of it because it said fair condition was the only description. So I was waiting the day for the photos to show up. But in the meantime, somebody else decided to buy it. I'm assuming decided to buy it sight unseen. It was gone the next day. So, but I don't want a 60 watt, and I think it was a combo as well, which I also don't want. So. Ryan13 says, I just got the Joyo Aquarius delayed. It's incredible. The Joyo Revolution series is very underrated. I agree. Revolution series guitars are excellent. Revolution series pedals are excellent. So I haven't gotten to try the Aquarius, but there's a couple more out of that series I do really want to try. So, but there for a while, I went through a stretch of like a month or two when it was like straight, almost nothing but Joyo demos on my channel. You guys kind of got a little sick of seeing Joyo show up on this channel, so I decided I would back off for a little bit and mix in some other brands for a while. Maybe I'll reach back out to them, see if they got an Aquarius that I can try out. I don't know if they do or not, but Brendan Elton says, "Hey Robert, I have a Korg G3. Have you ever used one?" I have not. Um, I'm assuming that's a processor. I'll be honest, I'm not real sure I know what that is. Korg G3. It's a processor. Yeah, I had a. Oh, what was the name of that thing? Korg AX. It was the AX1000G, I think, was the model that I had. Oops. Yep, that was it. The Korg Toneworks AX1000G. You know, it was a 5-switch board with a treadle thing on it, and I never. There was a couple of preset tones in it that that I learned to get on board with. That I learned to like, but I can never dial in a good sound out of that thing. Everything just all sounded too. It was too digitally processed sounding and way too hard for me to control. To dial in anything that I actually liked. Which is the problem I've had with all processors. Even I get something that I thought sounded great, in my practice space at home, and then in the band setting, I completely disappeared in the mix and sounded terrible. So, yeah, no, I'm not a processor guy for that reason. So it was the AX1000G that I owned that turned me off of them. So that was the last processor I bought. I've been a stomp box guy ever since. Joy Van Ostrom says, "I'm a firm believer in Tone Ninja. I'm not familiar with that brand. Locking tuners for all of my non-locking guitars. They're awesome tuners, only about $50. Interesting. I will keep that in mind next time I need to buy a set of tuners. I've never heard of them before. Let's see. You guys are way ahead of me. You guys are way ahead of me in the chat, which means that I've been yammering on about whatever it is I've been yammering on about for a while. And I have spent too much time yammering. So give me a second. I'm going to blaze through some of this stuff. Hayden Hartley says there are some nasty trolls on your channel. I get my share. I definitely get my share, but that's part of that. Part of that is because of part of that is because I made a few videos with some opinions that pissed a lot of people off, and I've done a few. The Know Your Troll videos have been viewed as negative by some people, and a lot of that is just because it's just YouTube, man. And YouTube, there's if you want to find trolls, find any popular video on YouTube and read through the comments, and there will be a few. At least, oftentimes more than a few. Which where people get this kind of time. Even outside of a global pandemic, I will never understand, but they're definitely out there. RGD, what was that Cook attenuator in your pedal video you were talking about getting rid of? It was, I demoed that. It's called a dummy box. It's actually a load box, what it is. And I keep meaning to put it up for sale. But it's a load box. You know, it's kind of a it's a more affordable version than, you know, like a 2 notes something or other. But you know, it allows you to, you know, to run your head direct without the use of a speaker cabinet. You know, up to a certain wattage anyway. I think that one's rated up to 60 watts. So you can, you know, you don't run a 100-watt head into it, just to blow it up. But you know, but it can handle the load up to 60 watts. You know, it's got a speaker sim on it that's okay. You know, not the best speaker sim I've ever heard, but you know, it'll get the job done, I guess. And yeah, so you know, I used it a couple of times, and you know, discovered that at that time anyway, I didn't really need it as much as I thought I would. You know, and now, I mean, I now have a 2 notes captor, and I've got a Torpedo Live racked up here right in front of me. So you know, I really don't have a use for it anymore. I originally bought it for, you know, to be able to use for that kind of thing, you know, for silent recording back in my guitar room, for silent recording straight into my Tascam recorder, but you know, I never really ended up getting used much for that either. And now that, you know, and I've got, you know, again, I've got my captor for that. So it's just sitting there collecting dust. So I do need to sell that, because it's not going to get used anymore. And I'd rather have the money. Hey, Park Kingery's here. What's up, dude? Gargoyle 84 says, "Morning, Robert. How did EVH inspire you?" I'll tell you how Eddie Van Halen inspired me. He, the first time I was, you know, Eruption was not the first thing of his that I heard. My first exposure to Van Halen was Jump. You know, when, you know, 1984 it was obviously 1984. It had just come out, and Jump was being played all over the radio. And you know, and I was 6 years old. I turned 7 later that year, but I was 6 years old at that time, and you know, I really, really liked the song. My mom was, and again, this is the 1980s, you know, but my mom was an aerobics instructor for years when I was growing up, and so she still has to this day, giant vinyl collection of all kinds of 80s, you know, popular 80s music, you know, because she used to go to the record store, you know, about, I don't know, several, you know, times a year, and you know, she would buy some new records that came out, so that she could make a mixtape with them, you know, for her aerobics classes that she was teaching. You know, and one of the she bought, I think she bought 1984, and I think she bought that for me because she knew that I heard it on the radio for the first time, and really enjoyed it. Hadn't heard anything like it before. Nobody had, really. So yeah, you know, I was a budding Van Halen fan at 6 years old, after hearing that record, and then not too long after that, then I heard Eruption. Well, let's see, you know, 4 or 5 years later, I had started to learn to play guitar, and you know, somebody said, you know, listen to this, and then they showed me Eruption, and that damn near made me want to quit playing guitar. I've still never, you know, and honestly, it was just listening to it alone was really, really intimidating to me, and it still intimidates me to this day. I've never sat down and tried to learn Eruption, so never. Christopher Bass says, "How come people aren't taking pictures of the guts of these pedals? How hard could it be to reproduce these unless they have digital chips in them that are programmed?" Well, I mean, it's not too tough to get a hold of a pedal to, you know, pop it apart and take a picture of the circuit. I've had people ask me if I would, you know, start taking pedals, you know, my pedal demos, start taking them apart and taking photos, and you know, I'm not gonna do that. Number one, because you know, it bores the shit out of me. Number one, and number two, you know, even though I know there are people that are interested in that kind of thing. But it's the majority of you don't really seem to care whether you see the guts of a pedal that I'm demoing or not. So, and it's also a lot. It's a lot more work for something that a lot of people have not requested. So, if enough people start telling me that we want we'd love to see the inside of that pedal, then maybe I'll consider it. But there's other channels that are a lot more, that dig a lot more into that kind of thing. Like Colin, CS Guitars, for example. He gets really into the nerdy electronics side of things quite a bit, and he's really, really good at that, and he's got a very, very solid understanding of how all that stuff works. So, it's just not my niche. Orville Farley says, how do you go about determining an asking price on used gear when you're putting something up for sale? I found the prices are all over the place when checking out Reverb. Exactly. Reverb is like the last place that I would go to determine a value. Here's what I would do. And I'll even share my screen with you so that you can see what I do to determine my process of determining a piece of used gear. We're going to go to the Evil Bay. And the reason we're going to go to the Evil Bay is because whether you like Evil Bay or not, it is still regarded universally as, this is where people go to buy their used gear. So let's go talk about that Cook dummy box. And they don't have any. Okay, bad example. How about Epiphone Les Paul Custom Silverburst. Seems to be popular at the moment. There we go, plenty of them. And here you can see with these pre-owned, asking prices are all over the place. Why are asking prices all over the place? Because some people think theirs are worth more than they actually are. How do we figure out what it's actually worth? Well, what it's actually worth is what people are actually willing to pay for it. People can ask whatever they want. That does not mean it's worth $740, especially used. I think that guitar is only about $7.99 or $8.99 brand new. So, if we go down here and we click completed listings, this filter will tell us a lot more. $600. This is, the ones in green are what people have actually paid for used guitars. $600, $400. This one's got a case with it. That one looks like it doesn't. So you can see some differences in here. $400, $400. Looks like most of them are around $400. There's one for less than that, with a case by the looks of it. So without digging too much into it, you see enough of these. Most of these seem to sell for right around $400 on the used market. So that $600 one looks probably a anomaly of some kind. And all these are sold. A lot of times you'll look for something that will have some red listings, and not green, but red. And the red listings tell you the ones that didn't sell. So you can see what some people are asking and refuse to go below, and what they did not get for it. And then some of them, like this one, has a slash through it. That means that they were their asking price was $415, but right below it you see best offer accepted. I mean, somebody offered them less than $415 and they took it. Doesn't tell you what they accepted for it, but we can assume it's probably in this $375, $400 range. So that is what I anytime I'm putting up something for sale, that's usually the first thing that I do is I go to eBay and figure out what people are actually getting for theirs. So, sometimes you get stumped and you run into something that there's not, there is nothing on eBay. Sometimes that happens, and you kind of got to, then maybe you kind of got to go, and then maybe you got to go to Reverb, see if you can find anything else out there used, what somebody's asking for it. But, then in which case you got to get a little more creative. But usually eBay will tell you everything that you need to know as far as what the market on something might be. So that's always the first thing that I do is go to Reverb, or I'm sorry, go to eBay, figure out what they're selling for, and determine what my asking price is going to be from there. So sometimes I will ask the top end of what I'm seeing them sell for, just to see if I can get it, but I'm not going to go over that. It's ridiculous to think that I'm going to get more than that dude that's got 600 out of his with the case. I don't, that one I think was probably a fluke more than anything, but, which it does happen, but it's not very often. Let's see. Matt Maruzek says, I paid $700 for my Garage Master. Wow. That's a lot of money for a Garage Master. I don't think I've ever seen anybody, I've never seen one sell for more than 200. Most of them I've seen them sell for 150, 100, 150, 180. Timbuktu says, what would you suggest in regards to getting a first tube amp? Oh, well, kind of a broad question these days. 10 or 15 years ago, your first tube amp, I mean, I would have been most people would have wanted a 100 or, 50 or 100 watt head, which case it would, there was plenty of options around back then. Nowadays, there's plenty, and I mean plenty of affordable tube heads and combos and 112s and 212s and low wattage and high wattage. So, first, your first tube amp, I mean, you need to, determine those things first. What features are you after, and, as far as just basic general features, how loud do you need it to be? How many speakers do you need? And your budget, and then what you want to sound like, because you can buy, for example, a used deluxe reverb for $700, give or take, $650, $700, $800 these days, on the used market, and you can also buy a used Marshall JCM 900 head for about the same price or less. And those two amps are wildly different from each other, as I think we all, as most of us already know. I shouldn't say most of us, but a lot of us already know. So you determine those things, and then you can go from there. Christopher Bass mentioned the Randall 1 watt. He's talking about the Diablo series heads, which I own one of those. I actually, I have the 20 watt version that I have done a lot of pedal demos through, because it's a killer. It's got a killer clean channel in it, and again, a great sounding gain channel. Those amps were designed by Mike Fortin, and that dude knows what he's doing when it comes to designing amps. So, and they're really affordable. So, but there's, answer a few more questions, for yourself about what you want. And there's all kinds of stuff out there these days. Let's see. Christopher Bass says, Phil McKnight said he sold his JCM 800 in Jubilee because the DSL was close enough for him. There's a lot of truth to that, man. I mean, I know a lot of people that have bought the DSLs, even the new DSLs. I'm not even talking about the original, the JCM 2000 DSL series, which those are great too. I know a lot of people that have bought a version of the current DSL line and have been perfectly happy with it. I've thought about picking up a 40 watt myself. So, and I don't think it's identical. I don't think you can dial in an exact JCM 800 or Jubilee sound out of it, but I do think it kind of does its own thing, but it does have a wide range of tones that you can get out of it. Let's see. Crazy Cook 678 says, "Hi Robert, good to see you. I was wondering how you're doing since Eddie's death. Been having a real tough time. I'm still, like everybody else. I'll be okay. He God knows he left plenty of a legacy behind for us all to, for us all to continue to enjoy. But it's still, You know, I said in the video that I posted about this the other day. This celebrity death in particular has hit me a lot. It hit me a lot harder maybe than any other celebrity death that I can recall in my lifetime. And he's it's gonna take some time to get used to him not being around anymore. Like I said, my entire life, Eddie Van Halen has just always been there. Eddie's always been there, so it's taken some getting used to, just like everybody else. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. Christopher Bass says I got my RG80 for $100. Wow, that's a hell of a deal. Why does it need to be tube? Well, the only reason it would need to be tube is if the person buying it wanted it to be tube. Yeah, I saw a 6505 combo for $429 a few years ago. I think I paid about I paid in the threes, $350 or so, $375 for my 6505 combo. But I've had mine a while, and they were, I think brand new. They sold $100 cheaper then than they do now. Let's see. Give me a minute to get caught up here in the chat, fellas. You guys have been awfully chatty. Which is good. I'm not complaining about that. Orville Farley says, "What is the one that got away? What is the one that got away story? The one you regretted selling or regretted buying?" I didn't sell it. It was, I mentioned earlier about my dad's Martin D18. We moved to Indiana from Texas in 1990, and after being here for, I don't know, a year or so, year and a half, my dad decided that the cold Indiana air was going to make the wood on that guitar brittle, and it was going to ruin it. So he'd better sell it while he still could. And even though I still played it, I remember I would go downstairs, and this is how I found out that I didn't have this option anymore. He said, I would go down, because he kept it in the closet down in the basement. And I do, my grandfather built him a custom guitar case for it, and I do still have that. That's not going anywhere. But I went downstairs to pull that thing out of the closet on a Saturday morning because I wanted to strum on it a little bit while I was watching cartoons, and pulled it out of opened up the case, and the guitar was gone. And Dad came home a few hours later and said that he had decided to sell it, and told me why he decided to sell it. And he had taken it down to a guitar show, and this was, like I said, this was 1990, and that was a 1952 D18. That guitar was probably worth every bit of $4,000 at that time, and probably worth 8 or 10 now, and if not more. And he sold that thing to some yahoo at a guitar show for $800. And I have never quite gotten over that, because that thing would still be hanging on my wall to this day. If I could have any of them back, that's the one it would be. So, Sean Carney says, "Curious to know if you have any opinions on Roland amplifiers. Found an early 80s orange Tolex Cube 40 and love it." Yeah, I still have I've got a Cube 40 XL that, I bought as a practice. Well, actually, it was a Christmas gift a number of years back for a practice amp, that I wanted because I wanted it because it, was had a pretty good onboard looper for it. It was just good for, practicing different. At that time, I was playing in a cover band, And it was good for practicing through that stuff, and it sounded good. And I still have it. So no, I think the Roland Cube stuff, I think are actually pretty good, despite them kind of going against how I feel about they go right along with how I feel about modeling amps. But those I do like, and I'm sure a lot of that is just because I love Roland. But that said, the Roland JC120 Jazz Chorus is still the greatest sounding clean amp on the planet as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, no, Roland makes good stuff, man. Blues Cubes are great, both the old ones and the new ones. Yeah, Roland amps are pretty awesome. I like Roland a lot. A couple of you said, "No, your troll vids are hilarious. Keep them coming." I got some things I need to think about with those. A couple of my peers pointed out a few things about my last one and they were right. I'm not going to go into any details about them, but about what they said or who said them. But there are a few things I need to consider with those if I'm gonna keep doing them. So. What's your opinion on AC/DC's new song "Shot in the Dark"? I actually haven't heard it yet, to be honest. I think I happened to glance at something, or something came across me that they had just released a new song, but that was, I hadn't heard it yet. So I saw they got Brian Johnson back though, so it sounded. I think I heard a little clip of it. It sounded like Brian Johnson was singing on it, so it sounds like he's his vocal cords have gotten better. So that's good to hear. I did not see, and they were a 5-piece. I saw a picture of AC/DC with 5 people in it. So I don't know who they got to replace Malcolm, but they're still going. I honestly, I didn't think they were going to keep going. So, hats off to them for continuing the legacy. It's like Joey's off to run a chainsaw. Don't lose any fingers, dude. Robin Trower has a new CD, 75, and sounds great. Robin Trower he's still recording music. Wow. Thunder Falcon says, did someone recently pay $4,000 for a Klon? I don't know about that. I don't know if anybody... God, you'd have to be absolutely insane to pay that kind of money for a Klon. I think $2,000 is too much for a Klon. Well, I mean, realistically... I mean, even the guy that, what's the dude's name that does a Bill something or other that originally designed him, even he doesn't know why they go for so much money on the used market. I mean, it's a really, really simple circuit. There's not a whole lot going on the inside of it. And he's even admitted that. But for some reason, people pay tons of money for those stupid things. Yeah, and there's so many. You can get an electro-harmonic soul food for $80, brand new, and it sounds just like it. Hayden Hartley says all the trolls on guitar channels that criticize people's guitar playing are probably 11-year-olds that play Seven Nation Army and Nirvana songs on their $50 Amazon Basics guitar with their 5-watt amp. Believe it or not, there's actually, unfortunately, that's not the case. You get a lot of people, a lot of those people are actually pretty experienced players or people that have been playing a long time that, are my age or older, that wish that they had more success with their music than they did. Some people are younger than me that are just hell-bent on proving to people my age that they're better guitar players than me, of which we all know there are plenty of those. You know, I mean, I've never tried to hide the fact that I'm pretty much a hack guitar player. We all know that. So, anybody that's seen any more than a couple of my videos can tell you that. But this is not a channel about playing guitar as much as it is about gear. So, if you're coming here to see, if you're coming to this channel to see some, to see some top-notch guitar playing, you're in the wrong place. Let's see. Where are we? Sorry for being quiet. I'm trying to get caught up with you guys here. And I feel like I'm getting close. Let's see. Famer7 has joined the soiree. Abdullah Al-Sultan, I think I pronounced that right, is here as well. It says, is the Explorer comfortable playing while sitting down? Yes. Yeah, I've never been uncomfortable sitting down playing an Explorer. And I got two Gibsons. I got two Gibsons and the 10S Explorer type guitar here that's sitting on the stand behind me. You guys can only see the headstock of it, in the camera shot, but so I've got those three Explorer-shaped guitars. I've never been uncomfortable sitting down playing any of them. So. The only thing I can think of that I've ever been really uncomfortable sitting down playing was a Flying V, of any, or a V-shaped guitar of any kind. So, those are not comfortable to sit down with. And, it took, sitting down with a Mockingbird and a Warlock took some getting used to, but I got used to it. Because they've got that point, the pointy guitars, and they point right there, tend to, if you're a big guy like me, it'll hit you right in the gut. But, like I said, I got used to it. See, Timbuktu is hitting the road. Like a few of you guys are starting to hit the road. I haven't even looked to see how many. We got 35 people in here right now, and it looks like we've been over 40 a couple times. We're right at 40. See, Davey Roque, R-O-Q-U-E. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not. It says, any difference in pros or cons between 115 and 412 for guitar? 115 does, guitar is really, really mid-range, is a really mid-range and trebly sounding instrument just by the nature of it, especially compared to everything else in a band mix. The guitar is actually the oddball instrument. Everything else is known to be pretty flat sounding. So, with the, with a 15-inch cabinet, and it's, pairing a 15 cabinet with a like a 215 with a 412 like Dime used to do, that's one thing. But, playing strictly through a 15, again, a lot of it sounds, depends on the cabinet and the speaker that's in it. But you're going to lose a lot of high end and probably not gain as much low end as you're hoping you will. So, Frank 12-string sound check. Ciara says Eddie Van Halen's favorite guitar player is Alan Holdsworth. I've heard three different. I've heard that three different people say Eddie Van Halen's favorite guitar player was three different people this week. Now, Alan Holdsworth is the most recent. I saw somebody on TV say that right after he died on the news say that it was Eric Clapton, and I had always been under the understanding that it was who was it? God, I can't remember who it was. It was not Alan Holdsworth. Where am I? Ooh. Let me see if I can. Eddie Van. Oh, where is it? Where is he? That is the third name that I've heard this week, though. And I can't remember who it was now. That's gonna drive me crazy. I'm gonna have to go back and look that up later. I can't remember. I always thought it was. I'll have to go back and look it up before I dwell on that. I don't want to put out any more misinformation. Obviously, there's plenty. Okay. Christopher Bass says there's a third brother in the Young family. Okay, I didn't know that. There was a third brother that also plays guitar. Interesting. Okay, cool. They all sound the same. AC/DC songs all sound the same, but they all kick ass. Yep, they're man. That's actually a pretty rare feat, dude. I mean, to be able to, I mean, you're right. A lot of most of AC/DC stuff all sounds the same, but it sounds like AC/DC, and they've never had to change, never, which is insanely rare because most, you got AC/DC and Van Halen, and that's about it. Anybody else that's ever tried to keep, stay the same throughout their entire career usually flops, and that's the last you hear of them because they get complacent. They stick with the same thing they've been doing forever. People get tired of hearing it, and they put out a record that flops, and that's it. That's why I've never understood why Metallica get the flack that they do for evolving their music the way that they have. I mean, if you don't like their new music, fine, but people are calling them sellouts and and just making all these ridiculous accusations about them like that, which just makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, like, why would you not want if you're making changes to your music, you're writing new music, why would you not want it to be successful? It's I mean, that's to say, so to call them sellouts is absolutely the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And they're not the only ones that have fallen victim to that. So Thunder Falcon says trolls are just looking for 15 minutes of fame. They rarely get 1 minute of it. That's true. I wonder if I don't get a bunch of trolls on my channel just because people are looking to, see if they can show up on a episode of Know Your Troll. Hey, Waleed's here. So just typing hello quickly while shielding my Strat pick guard. What's up, dude? Good luck with your Strat. I hope it comes out the way that you want. That's a cool dude right there, man. I like Waleed. Took me forever to learn how to pronounce his name, but Brennan Elton says this is why we check out your channel to get the dirt on what's hot or not. And your opinion matters. Oh, I appreciate that. I really do. It's very, very, very kind of you to say that. But I mean, the truth is, I'm just a dude that loves guitar gear, man. If you value my opinion, again, that's great to hear, and I'm really, really glad to hear that. But my opinion, doesn't mean, it doesn't bear any weight on anything as far as what's, what people as a whole want or what companies are going to produce. So, it's, yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm just a guy that loves guitar gear. So, cool guitar gear. Says looking forward to your Vi demo review. Thank you, sir. Actually, and I have you to thank for the referral, by the way. So if you guys have not checked out Cool Guitar Gear's channel, I strongly encourage you to do so. Because yes, he actually made sent mine. He threw my name in a lot of hats out there, and gave me the opportunity to demo the Steve Vai the new version of the Steve Vai Bad Horsey Wah. That I think that video goes up tomorrow, I believe. So you guys will see that, and that became a thing because of Brian. So. Yep, hopefully that was a tough one to demo, to be honest with you. So, I hope you guys like it. Ryan 13 says I heard EVH's favorite was Leslie West. There's a fourth name. so check out the album Dungeon One Step Beyond. Okay, I think that's something totally unrelated. Christopher Bass says inspired him to get a Les Paul, as little sense as that makes. Actually, I remember reading one time after Van Halen's first tour, Eddie and Alex got home and had more money than they've ever had. And the very first thing that they did was they retired their father, because their dad had worked his ass off for both, their entire lives and then some. And he made a lot of sacrifices for those two. So the first thing that they did when they, with their money, when they got home, when they got done with their first tour, is they retired. They made sure he had plenty of money to never have to work again. The next thing that Eddie did after that was he actually bought a collection of Les Pauls. Right after that, and I think I have seen maybe one picture of Eddie Van Halen playing a Les Paul. So I read that and I was like, I've never seen him play it. I have never seen him with a Les Paul. But apparently he had, one time anyway, he had a thing for him. I don't know if he still had them at the time that he died. But, or, he could have sold them off a long time ago. I don't know. I would, I've always been a fan of both him and Valerie Bertinelli. I've always really liked Valerie Bertinelli, and my wife likes to watch a lot of her cooking and baking shows on Food Network and stuff. She actually has a really, really good autobiography. She talks a lot about her marriage to Eddie Van Halen. They were married for 20 years, so. But she's been posting a lot of things, a lot of tributes to Eddie Van Halen, since he died, and I've noticed on like Facebook and stuff, she's been posting up a lot of photos of, like the two of them, when they were younger, when Wolfgang was, had just been born, toddler photos of. Stuff like that, some a lot of really, really old early memories, and it's she clearly, it's good to see that she clearly had no no ill will or anything like that for him, and they still got along, they cared about each other, even after they got divorced. So yeah, if you don't follow Valerie Bertinelli, at least go check her, see some of the stuff that she's posted about him. It's been really, really Especially if you're an Eddie fan, kind of emotional. Hayden Hartley says Amazon is so scummy with music products. If you look anything up guitar related or probably music related in general, you get really shitty off-brand products. They do, and that's part of what Amazon does. Is, they sell a lot of proprietary, off-brand stuff because it's a very, very low margin for them. That's also the reason why they push a lot of that stuff as hard as they do. It's very low margin for them. They make a lot of money on it. Without getting into the political side of it, that's what Amazon's about. They're there to make money. That said, I have bought some Amazon branded stuff, even for music related, music gear and stuff, and it's, and I haven't really had any bad luck with any of it. So I mean, it may be off brand, it may be not, like cables and stuff like that. They may be off-branded cables or something like, but, and they may be low margin. They may have made a ton of money on my purchase, but, it was still affordable from my perspective and, worked just fine. So, Cool Dark here says Eddie's favorite was Andre Segovia. Yeah, so I'm going to deduce that we don't know who Eddie's favorite guitar player was at this point. And Park Kingery says they used a cousin to replace Malcolm, not a brother. You're talking about AC/DC again. My knees hurt, says just hopped in to hit the thumbs up. Thanks, dude. Appreciate you. Christopher Lazat, I don't know, says Metallica gets flack for not being all thrash all the time, but Metallica never said they were thrash. They've always avoided and refused to classify their sound. Very true. They really, yeah. They did, according to the rest of the world, they're really kind of the ones that defined, thrash metal. And again, of course, the big four, Metallica, and, then eventually Megadeth and Slayer and Anthrax all came along not too long after that. But and even then, all four of those bands are all still wildly different from each other. So, the problem with Metallica is when metal was extremely unfashionable, they fell in line and started making more contemporary music, and the road fans are wrong. I don't buy that at all. If you're talking about the Black Album, if you're talking about the Black Album, that album came out in '91. To date, I think they've sold like 30 million copies of that album. They did something right. They did something right, and there is a lot of good music on that record. Did it sound like their 4 records before it? No, but they had a different producer and a different studio, and a lot of things, and they've said over and over again. They knew it was, it was time for a change, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that particular change happened to be, what went on to become one of the greatest metal records ever, in my opinion. If you're talking about Load and Reload, they had evolved more some then, and yes, metal was not nearly as popular at the time that those 2 records came out, but those, they were still good records. I remember when Load came out, because it had been a while since the new Metallica album had come out at that point. When Load came out, I was real excited, and I drove around with that, with that CD in my car, listening to that thing front to back for months on end before I changed out to something else. So, Ian Nunez says Les Paul was Eddie's favorite. Pardon me. Davey Rock says it's actually pronounced rock. Roque is a pretty stupid way to spell it, but I couldn't help but be unique. Don't feel bad. So many have pronounced it worse than that for sure. Okay, cool. Now I get it. My knees hurt says, what's for lunch or dinner? I don't know yet. I'm thinking I might make myself, I'm either going to grill some burgers or I'm going to make some stuffed bell peppers. I haven't decided yet. I may just go the burger route because it's going to be a lot easier, and I may save the stuffed bell peppers thing for tomorrow night. Eddie was big into Jimmy Page. Best Metallica song ever was a cover. Whiskey in the Jar. No. Nothing wrong with their cover Whiskey in the Jar, but that was far from the worst thing they ever did. Hayden Hartley says, what's your favorite Pantera song? Ooh, boy, there's a lot of those. Man. This Love, Domination, By Demons Be Driven, Cowboys from Hell. Yeah, to name a few. Unbroken. They got a lot. Pantera, I guess they don't have a lot. They had technically, well, what they do? Four studio records: Cowboys from Hell, Vulgar Display, Far Beyond Driven, and let's see, Far Beyond Driven, Southern Trendkill, and Reinventing the Steel. Yeah, 5 of them. So, and 5 of those, only 4 of those I consider, because Reinventing the Steel, with the exception of one song, Reinventing the Steel, I thought was complete garbage. But the other 4 records are kick-ass. Robert, did you try any Sonic Cake products? Pretty inexpensive from China, but surprisingly good for the price. Many of their mini pedals are about $39. Yeah, I mean, I've considered it, but I just, a lot of them, I don't know. I'm kind of burnt out on $30, $40, $50 pedals, from China at the moment. I've demoed a lot of those, and I just kind of want to get away from some of them for a while, not permanently, but. I don't want to become known as the guy who demos all the cheap cheap pedals from China. So yeah, I'll probably check them out here one of these days, but for right now. Goop Tuber says, time for chili. Not yet. At least not here. I mean, it dropped down to 50s here earlier this week, and then, shot right back up to, I think it was 80 or so yesterday. It feels like it's about the same today. So, yeah, they were, I like it to be a little bit colder, a little bit chillier, before I start making chili. So. RGD, have you tried the EVH Stripe series? I have a Wolfgang Special and love it. Just wondering if the neck profile is similar and if it's the same pickup. Gassing for the black and teal. I haven't. Well, we were talking about that earlier, and I went and pulled it up on Guitar Center's website, and they're sold out. I got to assume they're sold out everywhere. I haven't lately. I played them when they first came out, and they weren't. Honestly, I didn't. I wasn't all that impressed when they first came out. But my understanding is they've improved quite a bit, and the ones that I played with, there was a lot of guitars with sharp frets that were coming out back around that era, which was, what, 2011, 12, something like that. For whatever reason, it became a thing. Companies weren't letting the wood in their necks, all their guitars, they weren't letting the woods dry and cure properly before they were slapping them on guitars and boxing them up and shipping them out. And I remember those having that problem as well. But like I said, that was a long time ago now, and my understanding is that's been a problem that has been fixed for a long time now. So I know plenty of people that bought them and been pretty happy with them. So I think my friend Justin Bryant has one as well. So, and he's a diehard Eddie Van Halen guy. So, DJ's Guitarist 21 says top 10 favorite bands. Oh boy, Metallica, Kiss, Priest, Iron Maiden. And this list changes a lot, but boy, let's see who else is on there right now. Ghost, Sons of Apollo, Five Finger Death Punch. How many is that? 7. Alice in Chains. Motley Crue, and oh boy, probably man, probably a toss. I don't know, man. Ozzy, Pantera, White Zombie, Rob Zombie. Probably one of those would need to be thrown in there somewhere as well. So. Ryan 13 says, at this point, Robert might have been EVH's favorite. I highly doubt that. There is absolutely nothing that I can play that Eddie Van Halen could not. Absolutely nothing. My niece hurts that I just got done cutting up a pound of habaneros for wow. That's going to be some hot sauce, dude. I don't want any part of that. I can't. I used to love eating spicy stuff like that, but I can't do it anymore. Paul Adamek says, what is a good Octavia pedal? Like if you're looking for an actual Octavia or an Octavio, I mean that MXR one that's out. MXR has a good one, and I think Full Tone has a good one as well. If you just need a good octave pedal, my attention right now is on that new Boss OC5 that just came out. That thing looks pretty killer for an octave pedal. Now, that doesn't have the distortion that's mixed in there with it like the others do, but octave and distortion in the same pedal is kind of a useless effect in my opinion. Or not useless, but certainly not very useful. GoopTuber says, is there a bad Pantera tune? See Reinventing the Steel, in my opinion. I love Diamond, I love Pantera, and but I did not like that record. Did you hear about the Pantera SpongeBob collaboration? Nope, doesn't sound like anything I'm going to even be remotely interested in. Besides, Pantera was Diamond Vinny, and they're both gone now as well, unfortunately. Philip B is here. So, what's up, guitar friends? James Severn's got to run. I'm actually not too far behind you, dude. They've been going almost 2.5 hours. Ryan 13 says Megadeth's not top 10. if you ask me tomorrow, it may be. To be honest with you, like I said, I love Megadeth too. I definitely would have included them. And they were one of those bands that I listened to nonstop as a kid, just like I did Metallica. But, like I said, truth is, there's just, narrowing it down to 10, to 10 bands is pretty tough. And like I said, that can change from one week to the next, just depending on what I've been listening to lately. Really, and honestly, the music-wise, what I've been listening, what I've been listening to lately more than anything, I've kind of gotten into podcasts, and it's nice to just, I really like, various different, like gear podcasts, the guys from the Practical Guitarist, they're really the ones that kind of got me into it, you guys know I'm a big WWE fan, so I like listening to Grill and JR quite a bit, which is Jim Ross talking about, Jim Ross and Conrad, what's his name? Conrad, I can't remember his last name, but, but basically it's Conrad interviewing JR about, they'll pick a wrestler's career or a specific event, like, here recently they did one on the Unforgiven pay-per-view of 2000. So it's kind of cool listening to them talk about different different talents that were on those particular shows that were, where ideas of certain things came from. I just find that stuff interesting. So, I actually, when I am driving around, I do listen to that quite a bit. When I am listening to music, though, here lately, I've been listening to Sons of Apollo more than anything. I think that band's fantastic, even though they sound an awful lot like Dream Theater to me. But I think they're a killer band. They've got 2 records out now, and they're both kick ass. So, DJ, have you got any tips for maintaining a Floyd Rose? Maintaining, practice, lots of practice. It took me years to figure out, exactly how to do that. Do it the right way. As far as learning how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, I recommend taking your Floyd Rose equipped guitar down to your local guitar tech, have them, restring it for you or set it up for different tuning, whatever it is that you need done to it, and stand on the other side of his bench and watch him and ask questions. That honestly, that was the only way that I learned how to do it. So, as I took I guess it wasn't my guitar because I worked there at the time, but, I would, see Tony working on a Floyd Rose guitar, and if I had time, I'd go over and stand over him and ask questions while he was doing it. And, because I just couldn't wrap my brain around how those things worked. And, I watched him do a couple of them, and, he managed to explain some things to me and that made sense to me. And finally, next thing I know, I came home and restrung one of my own guitars and actually got it done correctly. And, once I was able to do that once, and then I was able to figure out the rest of it from there. So, but they're frustrating if you've never. They're frustrating if you're not familiar with them. Philip B says, my output jack on a 2015 Gibson 335 Studio is acting up. Any recommendations? Most output jacks out there, they're Switchcraft or CTS, one of the two. There's really nothing special about how those are made. It's literally a cheap piece of metal, that's screwed in, that screws into the body or bolts into the body, I guess. But so, I would make sure and buy something, buy one of those well-made brands, or at least replace it with whatever was in it. If it's, the one that's in it needs to be replaced. It could be that, you just had a solder joint come loose, which is not uncommon, in which case you can just pop it, solder it back together and you're good to go. So I would probably check that first. Cool Guitar Gear says, do you use studio headphones when recording, etc.? I have Audio Technicas, but find the sound does not reflect my KRK Rocket 8 monitor speakers or my Bose computer speakers. Any recommendations? I use, this is a pair of Wire Dynamic DT990s. The Beyerdynamic line. They've got the DT990s, and these are the open back, which I had never used open back headphones before these, but my wife gave me these for Christmas a couple years ago, and I really, really like them, and I've got a lot of use out of them. And they're really, really comfortable, and they sound really, really good. The 770s are basically the same things, but they're closed back. And then there's another model in between them called the 880s that are a semi-closed back, so somewhere in between. And then the next line up from there is like the 1770s and the 1990s, and those are 3 or 4 times the price of these. These are $150, $200, depending on where you go. So to answer your question, do I use headphones? Yes, I will. A lot of times when I'm, like in my videos, when you see me recording full tracks and stuff like that, rhythm tracks for guitars, with drums and stuff like that. A lot of times, if not most of the times, I'm actually, I've got my headphones on. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm recording silently, and I've got a pair of Cali Audio LP6 studio monitors, and I've got them muted. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I need to record silently, so that because my wife lives here too, and she doesn't want to hear me making recording mistakes and stopping and starting over and over again, drive her nuts. So a lot of times, yes, I do record with headphones, and I also sometimes will even mix with headphones for the same reason. So, yeah, but for headphones, that's what I would recommend. Beyerdynamic. I don't know that I will ever buy another brand of studio headphones than Beyerdynamic. I am very, very happy with those. Doc Amos Roxy says, RGD, here you say you don't like fuzz. However, I like some fuzz when rolled off volume and pick up rich harmonics without buzz. There's a lot. Most people nowadays, especially. I don't know how or why fuzz got so popular in the last 10 years, or maybe even not even that long ago. But whatever reason it did. But I've always hated it, always. And I do grab and pick up a fuzz pedal, for a very specific use every now and then, but. So it's not, I can't. It's not like I can say that I completely avoid it, but I'm never gonna like it. I'm never gonna like the characteristics of it. I don't get it. I don't understand what attracts people to it. None of the music that I listen to or enjoy ever has been has been with any guitar players that use fuzz pedals. Ever. Yes, David Gilmour was known to use a Big Muff every now and again, but his didn't sound like a. Right, his never sounded like a standard fuzz, to me at all. Smashing Pumpkins were known for a fuzz, for using fuzz, but that's actually a band that I never did care for, save for 1 or 2 songs, and I can't think of any other bands that are really, really well known for fuzz that I've just always loved. So it's just not my thing. DJS Guitars 21 says, "What is the one guitar you most have regretted not buying?" Not buying. Possibly a Gibson V. I think it was 1980 or an 82, 83. I can't remember exactly what year it was now, but it was a Gibson 80. It was a Gibson Flying V2. Which was kind of a short-lived version of the V2, but those are, they were a really, really cool version of the V2. It had this weird scout body and these weird V-shaped pickups in them. Their prices on those seem to keep going up and up. And we had one at the store that I was at for for not a long time, but we had it for several months. And looking back, the price that we had it at was very fair. and but it was still out of my reach at the time. So I didn't grab it. That was one. Knowing what I know now about the Aldo Nova Les Pauls, one of those came across my path. Oh boy, there seems like I know there's other stuff out there that I didn't grab, that I should have, but I didn't. So, but none of it comes to mind at the moment. But there's also a lot of things that I did grab that I was really glad that I did. My USA Washburn Paul Stanley signature for one. That one, I was never going to see that deal again. Never. My Les Paul, my Zach Wild Vertigo Les Paul, I was never going to see that deal again. So, there were some things that I was really, really fortunate to, Hammer Scarab. There's another one. I was never going to see that deal again. So, there were some things out there that I was really, really fortunate to grab when I did. So, I try not to dwell on the ones that I missed because I'm not going to, I can't get them all. I'm not going to get them all. I don't have that much money laying around. So, I do. One reason why I have as much gear as I do is because I've been fortunate enough. I've never had to sell any of it. And also because I'm responsible for my finances and I pay my bills first before I buy. All my bills and everything are, the important stuff is paid for first before I so much as buy a set of strings. So. Brandon Elton says, "What WTF is fuzz?" That's like the Electro-Harmonix Big Muff and the fuzz face, which is now fuzz face pedals, which are now made by Dunlop. Didn't always used to be, but now they're made by Dunlop. The Fuzz Factory, which is probably the one that I hate the most, but that one's really, really popular. Fuzz. What fuzz actually is? Whoops. I accidentally deleted a message, or I deleted a comment from Doc Amos Roxy below. It says, by the way, my PRS SE had shit electronics, sold it fast. So I meant to hit show, but I hit hide by mistake, so my apologies. But anyway, what fuzz actually is distortion actually creates what's known as a sine wave, and that's your standard waveform. It has points top and bottom. Basically looks like triangles. Fuzz, on the other hand, creates what's known as a square wave, and it's a really, in my opinion, a really, really, really unpleasant type of unpleasant sound. And it was honestly originally it was designed to make your guitar sound like you were playing your guitar through an amplifier with a blown speaker in it. That's what it's designed. What it was originally designed to sound like, and and that's what it sounds like to me. But Jimi Hendrix did his thing with it at Woodstock, and kind of first began to make it popular. And, and hats off to Jimi Hendrix for that. But hats off to Jimi Hendrix for a number of things. But it has remained popular for a lot of people over the years, and I've never been able to get on board with it. The first one that I ever tried was I think it was a Boss FZ2. I think it was the gnarliest, nastiest sounding guitar. I mean, a friend of mine let me borrow it, and because he was trying to get rid of it. He's like, I got this Boss fuzz pedal I'm trying to sell. You want to take it home, try it out, see. Brought it to school with him one day. I said, take it home, try it out, see if you like it. See if you want to buy it. And I took it home, brought it right back to him the next day. And after I spent about 10 or 15 minutes with it, tops, and said, nope, I'm good. Find another buyer. That is not what I'm looking for. So, nope, no fuzz for me. A lot of people love it. I don't criticize anybody for loving it, but don't expect me to. So my biggest regret was not buying a Strat from 1965 a couple years ago. It had been modded with HSH configuration, been refinished, and was for sale, lower than custom shop Strats were at the time. I would be on the fence about that one because it's be that heavily modified is that's a big shot to the value. But I don't buy I don't buy them to collect them. I buy them to play them. So just my opinion. All right, last one here. Frank 12-string sound check. Ciara says, "Can I put electric guitar strings on my Taylor T5?" Yes. Matter of fact, I think those come with electric guitar strings from the factory, if I'm not mistaken. I'm almost positive they do, as a matter of fact. So yes, answer your question. I think they come strung. I want to say they come strung with nano webs. Taylor puts elixirs on just about all of their guitars at the factory, but I think those come with nano web, nickel wound, 9s or 10s. I can't remember what gauge, but yeah. That's one of those things. There's really there's no rule about put the strings on it that sound best to you. That's really the best advice I can give you. If you don't like the sound of them, pull them off and throw in a set of phosphor bronze 8020s and see what you think. So, pardon me. Alrighty, I'm off. Thanks, guys, for all the guys and gals all took the time to hang in. Wow, this is a long live stream. I didn't expect to go this long today. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, thank you to everybody who took the time to come hang out and reminisce a little bit about Eddie Van Halen and talk gear like we always do. And all of you, thank you again very, very much for supporting the channel in various different ways that you have all chosen to do so. So I'm out. Have a good one, guys. Have a great weekend, and don't forget to check out the video tomorrow morning.